Well, good evening, and welcome. And I want to thank you so much for joining me this evening. The 13th of March, 2025. Thanks for those who are joining me on Instagram, those who are joining me on TikTok, and those who are joining me on Facebook, and primarily on YouTube. Straight ahead, YouTube. Remember to like and subscribe to the show. Yep. Just hoping that I just saw a little glitch there a while ago. Well, listen, every Wednesday, Thursday night, there's always, as I said, always new developments which are happening out there, and always ask a question as to what is your news? What is it, the big news for you? And there are three things which I just touched on this evening, and one is about the NHS England is to be abolished. The media is having a field day with that statement there. NHS England to be abolished. What does that mean? Are they talking about abolishing the NHS? We'll have a chat on that later. Also, conscription. What is conscription? I spoke about it in the park today, and the world aspect of the war, which is happening with the war, which is supposed to be coming to an end soon with Russia and Ukraine, and the Europe. They're talking about conscription. What is conscription? We're going to talk about that. Gabs, you work for the NHS. That's great. And also, another thing also is that Kemi Badenoch at Prime Minister's Question Time. We're going to have a review of that as well to see how that is unfolding. And there's so much thing which are happening. Time will not give the essence to do all of that tonight. So let's have a conversation tonight. Well, good evening. And thank you so much for joining me this evening. Welcome to everyone to the In Review. What's your news? My name is Sylbourne Sydial from the UK, and thank you for those who are joining from all over the world. Everywhere you are, everywhere you be, everywhere you are, we are right here for you. You know, every Thursday night at 9 o'clock. Expecting to get Sir Garry Graham will be on later, or any other person as well. Feel free. But ladies and gentlemen, there's something which has been banting around today, and you may see it. Gabs, you're talking about it. You may actually chip in on this one, and what is being trending today is about this term, NHS England to be axed and brought under government control. Yeah, I'm going to put up the flyer. NHS England to be axed and to be brought under government control. Now, what does that mean? What does that mean, by the way? NHS to be axed. NHS England to be axed. Now, there are many people have been talking about the NHS. I think the Secretary of State for Health was saying not fit for purpose. Many people have been saying that they want to shut it down. They want to close it down. They want to privatize it. But woe and behold, it's like, I don't know if his Keir Starmer's gotten some bug from Trump or so about saving, and I believe it's very good for saving, because even the Prime Minister speak about the whole aspect of the benefit system, want to cut the benefit system as well. You've seen whereby the overseas aid has been cut. You've seen whereby that is used to spruce up the defense. You've seen also in the States whereby they're cutting lots of things. It's like, could this be a new order? Now, England is separate from the NHS to a certain extent. Am I right, Caps? You know, NHS England will be abolished and brought under democratic control. Right? This is an attempt, this is what the Prime Minister said, to cut bureaucracy and duplication. Many people have said all the while that the NHS, which is great and fantastic, my both children came out through the NHS. I did my cataract operation via the NHS. Anything happens, my doctor called me today through the NHS. Fantastic, you know. But one of the thing happening is lots of bureaucracy and duplication, and that is what the Prime Minister want to address. The organization which oversees the country health service, this is it, will be brought into the Department of Health. That's what it is. NHS England will be brought into the country's health service and will be brought into the Department of Health. And the PMP said the move, the PM, there's a PNP. The PM said the move would free up money for frontline services. I know people, and I've heard people sometimes say that there's so many management layers in the NHS, so many management layers that need to be dealt with. If you can cut down a lot of these management, you can save a lot of money. The government said it's expected around 50% of jobs at NHS England, which as of December had 14,400 staff, and the Department of Health, which has 3,500 staff to go. I think they're taken out of the Trump playbook. In a speech in Hull, Sir Keir said, far too long, politicians have chosen to hide behind vast arrays of quangos, organizations funded by taxpayers but not directly controlled by the government. The government said work would begin immediately to return many of NHS England's current functions to the Department of Health and Social Care with the aim of contemplating the process in 2 years. Now, what I'm seeing about Keir Starmer, and I was saying this recently, and this is it. Is it that Keir Starmer wants to be a prime minister that deal with some fundamental changes, right? It seemed to be moving away from the, what should I say, the essence of what Labour is about. Let me see something here. Before you expire, take a flight to Cuba and you will get an excellent service that is world class before you expire. Well, they said if you go to Cuba, you lose your passport. I heard Mia Motley said that she's willing to lose her British or American visa because what they're saying, if people engage with Cuban doctors, then America is gonna have some sort of repercussion as a result of that. NHS is the best. We have to be honest. I agree totally with you. The NHS is the best. So, is it Starmer wanting to make an impact? Because sometimes I've been thinking about this. This government has been in power for not so long, but the amount of changes and things that it is tackling at the same time, I wonder, is it prudent? The war, trying to be on the front line of the war, talking about conscription, which I'll talk about later. Also talk about cutting the welfare as well, touching on many different areas at the same time. Sometimes I wonder at the same time, is there any need to try to fix something which don't need fixing? Or is there any need to fix something which doesn't need to be fixed right now? Because coming out of the COVID period, coming out of what they'll say the 14 years of the Conservative, talking about this 20 billion black hole or so, which they say, but at the same time, you're actually spending a lot of money. And sometimes one wonder, is there a time or there's a period that one needs to sort of settle in and just chill for a bit and govern, or is this governing, right? Because many people have been talking about that. You know, it seemed like even reform is not even on the horizon. So therefore, the Conservative have got to have a hold and to keep the government accountable. Right? The government said work would begin immediately to return many of NHS England current functions to the Department of Health and Social Care, with the aim of completing the process in 2 years. The significant move gives the government more control and accountability over one of their key pledges to cut NHS waiting times. Now, that is a mammoth task. That is something which I've been trying to do for a long time. It's a bit similar to immigration, how to cut the immigration, which I don't believe that's going to really happen in a certain extent. Because really and truly, the persons that come over by boat, they're really minimal in comparison to the bigger picture. NH in England, which the government dubbed the world's largest quanga, oversees the health services, working with the government to agree funding and priorities, as well as monitoring the performances of local NHS services. Given the ultimatum by the Conservative previous Health Secretary, Angela Lansing, in 2012, with the aim of freeing the organization from interference by politicians. Do you think at the same time that there's a lot of intervention which is seen to be happening with the NHS, with how the government is happening? Because that's one of Labour's actually playbook: intervention, big government, keeping at hand. It's like micromanaging at the same time, right? And so this is it's a very interesting point. But there are two sides of it. Because many people are saying, yes, 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 this need to happen ASAP. It's like waste. I mean, even the whole welfare system, many people say that needs to be sorted, because guess what? What's the sense of some persons actually saying it makes no sense for me to go and work? I might get a certain amount of money per week or per month, but if I go to work, I'm not going to make that benefit of that because of tax and everything like that. So therefore, the welfare system do not encourage, they say, persons to get out there and to work. It helps them to, or motivate them to stay on their behind, as some will say. So therefore, everything needs to be looked at. So I believe that in a way that the Prime Minister, as he's embarking down this particular route, maybe it's a blessing in disguise. Maybe he's actually want to be a person that moves away from the talking, because, and I think what the Conservative was doing with some of these things is maybe not wanting to touch certain of these areas, or failing or to be called racist, to be called typical conservative, trying to make it hard for the poor man. But what you're seeing now is the Labour Party, the one is the essence of this system. The essence of the welfare is actually, it's ebbing away bit by bit, ebbing away step by step. And what you're actually having is, maybe you're looking at it and say, hang on a second, a Labour Party, a Labour government actually operating like a conservative government. That's what it is looking like, right? So therefore, but I say this at the same time. The Labour Party has how long? 5 years, 5 years in government. The Conservative with Kemi is getting things in shape and trying to get ready for government, whether with Kemi or not. But the Labour Party has got to be very careful in the UK, because at the same time, while they may be dealing with or implementing unpopular policies, there is the repercussion whereby there could be, if possible, a vote of no confidence. And that is what I'm going to speak about when we talk about conscription, which is going to be the next topic, which I'm going to look at. So therefore, it is a new day. It is a new time. I love to hear what persons say in regards to the NHS, because I tell you this, and without a doubt, and everybody will say this, the NHS is boss in the UK. The National Health Service is boss in the UK, second to none, right? And I must say I benefit totally by the NHS. My children were born through the NHS. I've been doing my cataract operation through the NHS. And it is, and lots of people will say the NHS. So therefore, it needs to be restructuring. If anything, if it needs to be restructured, yes, let it be restructured as much as possible. So, Sir Keir Starmer, I don't know what you're doing, but hey, if you're wanting to change things up and wanting to be modified and wanting to be exemplified and want to do a new touch, well, kudos to you. You got 4 or 5 years of doing that. Don't know what other people will say about that, but hey, but definitely I'll say this: the NHS is not going to be abolished, because a lot of the news carriers today, the mainstream, they use that article there as a clickbait. They use that clickbait because lots of people started to comment by saying, wow, is Labour cutting out the NHS? Yeah, that's what they said. So it was a clickbait. At the same time, the NHS is to be abolished, but it's not the NHS, it's NHS England to be abolished. Cutting away these layers cutting away where this waste is. It's a bit like Trump, isn't it? As a matter of fact, I even say this now, even in Jamaica, where the election is pending, coming soon, I would say that if the new government is the PNP, they need to be a totally audit of the previous government, just like what Trump is doing, just like what Starmer is doing with the conservative to say that there's a 20 billion block hole. Because anything that the conservatives say now, anything that they say now, ladies and gentlemen, anything they say, 20 billion black hole, 14 years of mismanagement or so. Let's audit this. And they say you have not the right and the authority to speak on these different issues. And that is what's happening. It's happening with Trump, happening with the UK, and I guess it's going to happen in Jamaica, but it should only happen in Jamaica if there's a change of government. If there's no change of government, it's going to be business as usual. Yep, that's it there. So, yes, definitely. So, yes. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is this, and this is it. Hey, Charlie Stepper. Hey, Jody Murray. How are you? Fitness High. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I don't know. I think the I'm not seeing anything on the Instagram. I don't know if the Instagram is frozen or what, but I would encourage you to come over onto the other side. Come over. Okay, let me see if the Instagram is. Oh yeah, the Instagram is perfect. Yeah, come over on the other side onto the YouTube channel. There you are. Yes, the Instagram is working. Ladies and gentlemen, years ago, many years ago, in the wars, in the World War, England versus Germany, Germany against the world, you know, one of the things that was needed so much during the wars was men. Not much women, men. Men were called up. They needed boots on the ground. So men were called up to go to war. Oh, yes. Men were called up to go to war because they need, I said, army conscription, also known as a draft in American English, is a compulsory enlistment of individuals into military services as required by law. It's a practice that has existed since ancient times and continues in countries today. You know, the key aspects of army conscription is mandatory service. Conscription requires ineligible individuals, typically men of a certain age range, to serve in the armed forces for a specified period of time. Legal enforcement, it is enforced by law with penalties for those who fail to comply. Selective service, while universal conscription calling all physical, capable individuals between certain ages is rare. Most systems use selective service to determine who will be drafted. Age range. The age of conscript can vary, but it often targets young adults. For example, during World War II, Britain extended its conscription age range from 18 to 51. I missed it. Duration. The length of service can vary depending on the country and circumstances. For instance, U.S. draftees during the Vietnam era had to complete 24 months of active duty. If you remember, Muhammad Ali said, I'm not going to fight against the brown guys. They're nothing to do with me. Lock me up. Some countries provide alternative service options for conscientious objectors. Historical significance. Modern context, while many countries have moved away from conscription in favor of all volunteer forces, some nations still maintain conscription systems or reserve the right to reinstate if necessary. And why I say this? Because I've been listening to the news, and of course, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, the news, when someone say they're going to review the news, the newspaper, what you get in the UK is Ukraine wars, Gaza, and the Oval Office. Those are normally the three main things. And the newspapers have this now because, like today, Trump was in the White House with the head of NATO and having a good time. But of course, it was far different from when he had with Zelensky. Trump was talking most of the time. And of course, recently, he was flabbergasted and excited about the socks that Vance was wearing. And who knows, maybe that company is going to shoot up based on the advertisement so that socks. But the different countries and even the UK have been speaking about threats to peace, threats coming through by Russia, threats because of what happened in Ukraine. So even Macron is talking about having nuclear weapon ready because they see Russia as this threat. Trump don't believe that. Russia is saying that UK is like a warmonger or trying to stir up things. And somebody the other day called in on LBC, a lady, and I believe that lady is, I'm sure she's a Jamaican. She called in on LBC and she said, why are you guys talking about wars, conscription? Because the topic was about conscription, getting my vocabulary right. You know, calling up young men, calling up young women. Of course, it's not just men, young men and women to war, boots on the ground. Because they're talking about there's the army in the UK is not as strong as before, so they need boots on the ground to go into Ukraine, to be there as protector, right? That is what they're talking about. So therefore, it's going to come down upon you and me, parents and young people, to allow their sons and their families to go into war, to fight a war which has nothing to do with them. And the person said this. This is what they said. Hang on a second for a bit. You guys are saying Russia is a threat. But if Russia is a threat, how can Russia not able to overpower Ukraine as yet? This war should have lasted 2-3 weeks or so, or even a month. It's going on for years. How can you? And I think the lady said, on the blood something. And I think she said, some whatever. It just shut down. But she was saying, you guys got it all wrong. Why don't you ramp up diplomacy? Why don't you ramp up having meeting, talking to people that you don't talk with? That's what even Trump is doing. And I knew I referred to Trump a lot in this because that's what even the person said. Talking to people that you don't normally talk with. Because I always say that the war of the worlds can be saved by the war of the words. And the war of the words can only take place if people confront each other and having that conversation. So I put it to you now, ladies and gentlemen, those listening, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, would you be happy? And would you also, as a young person, be ready to fight for England in Ukraine? Right? Would you be ready to go over into another country which has nothing to do with you? While at the same time, they are saying, let's shut this thing down. Conscription. Now let's look at what some of the other points about conscription is. Why is it being discussed today? Is it? It's been discussed today due to several factors. Changing global security landscape. The UK government acknowledged that the world has changed and Europe need to step up in terms of its own defense. But the UK is not a part of EU anymore. Of course, we're on the same continent in that zone. Concerns about military readiness. Some former UK defense chiefs are urging the government to consider conscription to bolster military readiness, citing concerns about the current size of the British Army, approximately 70,000 active troops. In the UK, 70,000, being insufficient to deter potential Russian aggression. 70,000. It's a pittance. Recent comments by foreign leaders, the president of Latvia has urged European countries to introduce conscription. You see, they're talking about it. I was speaking to Mr. Van Tam, Jonathan Van Tam. I was at the Jamaica High Commission. I was having a chat with him about COVID and reflection after 5 years on. And he said for his lifetime, there's been 2 pandemic that he's been through. And he said he teaches his scientists and person that in his lectures that they might be seeing much more, right? No, that is not saying anything. But when they start to talk about it and ramping up certain things, like something in the air. I was with a gentleman at one of the supermarkets, which I frequent during the COVID period, and I always say to them, all the while when I go there, I said, "You guys are fantastic. Just seeing all of you guys still there after that COVID period, that social distancing, and they're there, very strong." And he said, "That time when we used to go there was that airy atmosphere during COVID 2020, airy atmosphere. And you feel like there's something in the air, right?" So recent comments by foreign leaders, President of Latvia has urged European countries to introduce conscription, highlighting the perceived weakness of the continent's military capabilities. What they're saying, we're in a new era. There's a threat, and that threat is by Russia. Now, what they're also saying is this: if Trump is so keen on dealing with taking away Greenland, if Trump is so keen on saying he wants Canada to be his, so keen on Gulf of America, with that mentality, isn't the same mentality with Russia? They say want to go in and take away a man's place. It's that same mentality. So they are saying they have some sort of issues with even Trump. Yeah. So the ongoing conflict in Ukraine, the war in Ukraine, has prompted discussions about the preparedness of European countries to engage more actively in potential conflicts. Strategic Defense Review, the UK is conducting a review to assess and update defense policies aiming to address possible challenges from countries like Russia and China. Ready. Saying they get ready. So they need boots on the ground. So they need you. They need your son, your daughter, your family, you calling you up. Yeah. NATO commitment. There's pressure to strengthen NATO defenses, particularly in the Baltics, in response to perceived threats and potential changes in US support. Yeah. Very interesting time. But do the government need to go to Parliament in order to deploy troops? Do they need that? I'll answer that question shortly. Despite these discussions, the UK government has stated that it is not currently considering conscription, but they're talking about it. The debate reflects broader concerns about national defense strategies and the UK ability to respond to evolving global threats. Ladies and gentlemen, I put it to you. Whenever you hear governments talking a lot on a particular issue, whenever they are discussing things and it is there in your mind, you start to hear it a lot. There's a high chance that what they're trying to do is to sensitize you. I understand that when the poll tax came out in the UK, the poll tax before the council tax, it was set out there. Everybody was riled up. Everybody get excited until after a while it became the norm and they changed it to become the council tax. I'm just bringing this up just to sort of let everyone be aware of the possibilities of things, and that if the call is made, yep, if the call is made, would you show up? Would you turn up? Young or brought up on a diet of junk food and Red Bull wouldn't have it. Yes, that is a very interesting one. As someone just said, the young who are brought up on a diet of junk foods and Red Bull wouldn't have the energy to go into war against Russia and go into war against China. But I tell you this, and this is the question. This is the thing: can Keir Starmer go ahead and put boots on the ground in Russia, anywhere else in the world? Does he have the mandate to do it? Would he need to go to the people? In 2003, remember the war, Iraq war and so like that. Did they go to the people? Does he need parliament approval? I tell you this, it's what I know. Simple from your law books. There's this thing called a royal prerogative. And the royal prerogative gives the government of the UK the mandate and the right to deploy troops at times of emergency, at times when it seems fit. So therefore, no, he doesn't need parliament. Doesn't need parliament. All he needs is government and his cabinet to make that approval. But normally now, since 2003, what they're doing now is to have this level of conversation. Have this level of conversation with one another now, with Parliament, to make sure that it is something which is amenable. And if the government of the UK, for argument's sake, the Labour Party under Keir Starmer, believe that yes, they have it in the pocket, they've got this massive majority, and they can do it. Yes, they can do it. But the repercussion is this: doing an unpopular policy can create a massive backlash, and you can see what has happened with the Conservatives. Boris Johnson, Rishi Sunak, Liz Truss, these are all prime ministers, of course. Theresa May, they all became prime ministers initially without an election. Boris was elected eventually. Theresa May was elected eventually. Is that correct? And Rishi Sunak wasn't. Liz Truss wasn't. So therefore, with a vote of no confidence, they can get rid of the prime minister. And that is something which people have to understand, that there is power in the hands of the people, right? And as a result of that, I just remember that on the 22nd, of March, I'll be launching a program called Civics. Civics, and specifically to Jamaica with the election which is pending, but also it as information and knowledge in regards to the UK as well. What is the role of the people? When you just vote in a government, can they just do whatever they want? Because sometimes you wonder at the same time, with the prime minister going about dealing with the NHS, dealing with the welfare system, dealing with Ukraine, you wonder, hang on a second, with cutting away the fuel help which was given to some people. Hang on a second. He has gone back on his words. He's gone against the manifesto. So how can we, the people, make a difference? How can you change certain things? Well, you can change certain things because there's this process which is called vote of no confidence. Yes, one can actually challenge your individual MPs. You can start to write letters to your individual MPs, WhatsApp your individual MPs, have surgery with your individual MPs, and say to them, I do not like the way the government and the way the country is going under your leader, under the prime minister. I want you to put in a vote of no confidence, especially if you do something unpopular, policy which is unpopular. So therefore, it is still within the people's hands that you can make a difference. So that is why I'm going to deal with the civics. And I'm going to be joined at some point by even Lord Simon Woolley, who is happy to come on and to do a section, because I was part of the program with Operation Black Vote some years ago, when I shadowed a few MPs in the UK, including former Attorney General Dominic Grieve, to talk about the power that the people have. So just because a government is in power, that doesn't mean to say it's the end of the day. So think about this for a while. Be mindful of it. Conscription. Be wary of it. It is out there. They're talking about it. And don't just believe that you just have to sit back and just absorb these things. You've got your right as a citizen, as a member of the public, to go to your MP and to challenge things and say, I'm not into sending my children to a country which means nothing to me. So I'm just bringing it up there. Conscription. Just listen to that word there. It is out there. All right. Fantastic. So do let me hear your views in regards to this whole thing. Now something else which took place, and if you remember this young lady, Eldiana, she was killed by this guy in Croydon. Well, I think the guy got a life sentence. I think he got a life sentence today. So that's good riddance that he's done. I was trying to find the article, but I can't see the article now about it. I'm going to review Kemi Badenoch in a quick second, but you know the whole thing with Russia, I keep saying, and I really need to do some discussions when it comes on to the African continent, because as you can see, the African continent sometimes is not discussed at all in the world scheme of things. There's also issues regarding in the Caribbean, whereby even I think America is talking about the Caribbean, or people must not engage or utilize or use the services of Cuban doctors, which is creating a sort of stink in the Caribbean. Mia Mottley, the Prime Minister of Barbados, is saying that she's ready to give up her U.S. visa. Gonzalez, guy from St. Vincent, is willing to give up his a visa as well. You see, one of the things I keep saying all the while, and this is very important, that we got to reach to a point that we got to develop ourselves. There's a blessing in disguise with Trump, with the USA ID cut. Because what it does, I believe it is teaching those persons from third world countries to look inwardly and to see how you can develop yourselves. Right? There's more life beyond Zelensky, more life beyond Trump, more life beyond Russia, Gaza, and all those different places. There's more life beyond that, right? So let's say U.S. nuclear weapons in Poland would be deterrent for Russia, Polish president says. Zelensky says Putin responsive to Ukraine ceasefire plan is manipulative. Trump threatens 200 tariff on alcohol from EU countries. There we go. That's all that you're seeing out there. You know, tariffs. They're important. It will affect us. But there's a bigger picture out there. There are bigger things out there, bigger things to fry. All right. Teenage jailer for life for Eliana and the murder. All right. So this guy here has gone down, which is good riddance. Um, don't touch a knife, you know, don't touch the gun. So this is the gentleman here. Hassan Sentemo attacked Alien while she was on her way to school. I worked in Croydon during that time. I remember I walked past, I think I did a video. I walked past the place where she was killed, and the flowers, saw some friends or some schoolmates there of hers there, you know. And what they're saying, teenager who repeatedly stabbed 15-year Eliana and them in a row over teddy bear has been ordered to spend at least 23 years in prison for murder. One has to respect the law, but sometimes when you look at it and say to spend at least 23 years, you should spend a life, man. Life means life. But guess what? Prison system, they say sometimes it's not fit for purpose. There's so many people in there. Hassan Sentamo, the 17-year-old, attacked her with a kitchen knife outside a shopping center in Croydon, South London in September 2023. Giving him a life term at the Old Bailey, Mistress Justice Sheena Grubb said the pain of her loss to her parents and younger brother is indescribable. She will always remain in just 15. She will never realize the potential for her life. Right? And I say there are many angry boys like my cousin's killer. Men. There have been 2 cases which I have been, called on of recent days of men was being allegation being made about sexual assault as well, black men, 2 in recent days. So therefore, one has got to really look at to see what is happening to our young men, the future. It's not good. It's not good. If capital punishment was still in effect, you would have not killed a young lady. So Milva tonight, so what you're saying is shut them down. Actually, there's a man in America who opted, what he opted for? To the firing squad. Did that happen? It's very, very, very Life should be life. What is a deterrent? I mean, even in Jamaica, sometimes they said 47 was the amount of person who got killed or murdered in February. And what they're saying is that it is the best since 25 years ago. Some are saying, what is there to celebrate with even one murder? But who knows? Let's see March. If it's going to go down, maybe there's something happening there at the same time. What are some of the best ways to deal with crime? They said a knife doesn't kill. A gun doesn't kill. It is the people behind it that does it. And it's crazy. Ladies and gentlemen, this is crazy, But anyway, let's have a conversation and talk about Kemi Badenoch. Well, I try to do a review at times on Kemi Badenoch's performance in the House of Commons because I believe it's very important. She's of Nigerian heritage, born in the UK, and she's the present leader of the Conservative Party. But she's very what should I say? She creates a stir. That's why I say create a stir. She's creating a stir in the Black community or African community or of Nigerians. They are split. Some are saying they are split with lopsided, where one is more against her than more is for her. I was listening to Dr. Shola the other day, and they said she's the black face of, racism, the black face of that. That's what they say. But, it's difficult sometimes when Black persons reach to certain positions because they'll be judged. But some will say that maybe she has been putting our country on the bus. But let me just play her period today yesterday at the House of Commons, where she had let me see. Do I have it? I should have it. Don't know where it is. I think I should have it. I thought I had it. I must have it. There it is. 13th? There it is.
Later today, the Prime Minister is meeting the family of Sir David Amess. Sir David gave this House and our country 40 years of service. I hope the Prime Minister will agree that getting the response to his murder right is vital, not just to his family, but to our democracy. Mr. Speaker, every week I speak to businesses who are letting go of staff or closing. Has the Prime Minister been given an estimate of how many people will lose their jobs because of his budget?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, just on the question of Sir David, he was a deeply loved and respected colleague, and behind me is the plaque, as is the plaque to Joe Cox in front of me. And I know this was deeply felt by the House, but particularly, as I acknowledged at the time, by the party opposite, who lost a colleague and a friend in the most awful of circumstances. Mr. Speaker, I am meeting the Amess family later on today and will make sure that they get answers to the questions that they ask. Mr. Speaker, in relation to businesses, I'm really pleased to say we've got thousands of new jobs into the economy. We've got more investment in the last 20 years, an absolute record. Wages are up higher than prices. 3 interest rate cuts, the best boost for the cost of living for a very long time.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister needs to get out more. Inflation is up, and estimates of job losses are between 130,000 and 300,000. Okay. His tax rises are hurting every sector of the economy. Things are getting worse for nurseries, Nurseries are writing to stressed parents right now, telling them that fees will go up because of his jobs tax. Can he explain how more expensive childcare is good for the economy or for working families struggling to make ends meet?
Well, Mr. Speaker, we're putting in childcare. Look at the breakfast clubs, 2 in her constituency. But she's rather forgetting the $22 billion black hole that they left that we had to deal with. That's why we had to take the necessary but right measures we did in the budget. And what's her response? Not that she'd reverse them. Oh, no, she doesn't say that. She attacks what we've done, but she doesn't say she would reverse it because she wants all the benefits of our budget in return to investment, but she doesn't want to pay for it. That's how we got into the mess in the first place.
Now, I will say this, that any person who became or is the leader of the Conservative Party, they're going to go through this period, and it's going to be a tough one for anyone because of the 14 years of the Conservative Party. So therefore, that is going to be going on for a while. 14 years, 20 billion black hole. So therefore, Kemi has to be taking that. Maybe she may not be the leader leading up to an election period or to the election, but at the same time, she's doing a purpose. At this time, she's she's one being battered, because any leader would have to be dealing with this bit here now. 14 years, and 20 billion black holes. So yeah, so I do hand it to Kemi at this time for what she's doing. Yeah, let's continue.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is out of touch because he should know that nurseries are charging over £2,000 for full-time care. That's £24,000 a year after tax, and he's talking about 60p breakfast clubs. He has no idea what people out there are experiencing, and it is not just the families. Even councils must pay his jobs tax. To cope with it, the average council tax bill is increasing by over £100 in April, after he promised to freeze it. Hard-working families' money is going to the Chancellor instead of social care and fixing potholes. Why should these families pay more for less?
Well, she really shouldn't denigrate what she calls, I think, 60p breakfast clubs. She should be welcoming them. And she asked about council tax, Mr. Speaker. The Tories put up council tax every year for 12 years. Their manifesto, Tory LGA manifesto, government should remove the caps.
Well, to be honest, council tax goes up every year in the UK. Every year. The mayor does his bit. The council do their bit. Council tax been going up every single year under successive governments. Somehow, I mean, I remember one time council tax was £90, £100. Now it's gone over to £170 a month or so. And one of the very interesting thing about council tax, which people have been talking about, and Martin, the consumer geezer, has been talking about this. If you miss your council tax, for argument's sake, and maybe you miss it maybe this month, and you pay that month, and then you miss it again, they'll say, this is the last reminder I'm going to give you. Then after that, you'll get a massive bill, which all your council tax for the rest of the year up to April or May. And then what they'll say, you need to pay that now. So mark you, listen to this. You weren't able to pay it, but then they give you this massive bill comprising of everything which is leading up to the end of the financial year. And on top of that, they give you what should I say, court fees on top of it. Man, it's unfair, totally unfair. But anyway, let's keep going.
On council tax. And then Hampshire Council, Tory, wanted a 15% increase. We said no. Slough Council, again, Mr. Speaker, Tory, wanted 3%. We said no. Windsor and Maidenhead, Tory, now Lib Dem, wanted 25%. We said no. We're the ones that are doing the right things to get this country on the right track.
Mr. Speaker, the point is he promised to freeze, and they are going up. And if he wants to talk about councils, let's look at Liverpool or maybe Birmingham, where the rubbish is piling up so high, people vote Labour and all they get is trash, just like what he's saying at the dispatch box.
And just for the record, she didn't call him trash. She said what he's saying is trash. Because if she had called him trash, the speaker would say, order, order, order. Can the honorable lady withdraw that statement? It's just like when these guys say, I will still call him Dodgy Dave. And they say, you got to go, you know. That was David Cameron by Dennis Skinner, former person in the House, former MP.
People all over the country are suffering, not just in Birmingham. Millions of elderly people have had their winter fuel payments snatched away. At the same time, care home fees are set to go up by a devastating £3,000 because of his jobs tax. How does he expect pensioners on a fixed income to make ends meet?
Mr. Speaker, this is why it's so important that wages are up higher than prices. That's why it's so important that the interest rates are coming down. This is the biggest boost for the cost of living for a very, very long time. What we're doing is picking up and fixing the mess that they left.
Question: how long do you think? I put that question to anyone. You know, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. How long do you think it is going to be justifiable for the Prime Minister to keep saying 14 years, 20 billion black hole, 14 years, every opportunity he says 14 years, 20 billion black hole? How long do you think he's going to be able to say that comfortably? Milverton, take a pick. How long do you think? And anyone can say, how do you think?
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is not looking at what is happening out there. Every day I speak to businesses who are telling us that they think that they are going bust. And as if businesses and families didn't have enough to worry about, supermarkets say food prices will increase by over 4% because of the jobs tax. And that's before we get to the immoral family farms tax on the very farmers who work so hard to produce our food. What does the Prime Minister have against farmers anyway? Does he not see that his budget is killing farming in this country and he is making life so much harder for everyone else?
Mr. Speaker, the budget provided £5 billion for farming over the next 2 years. That is a record amount. We've set out the roadmap for farming, which has been welcomed by farmers. And many thousands of farms have benefited from the farming schemes. But she talks about prices. Wages are going up higher than prices. That's the first in a long time that's happened. So for families across the country, they're better off under Labour.
He's got no answers today. What the farmers are complaining about is the sustainable farming incentive, which he has just scrapped or withdrawn. They are making mistakes with this budget. And that's why in 2 weeks, the Chancellor will come to this House to present an emergency budget the Prime Minister said we would not need. They will try and make out it's because of global events, but the truth is they trash the economy with their bad choices. They said they'd look after pensioners. Then they snatched winter fuel payments. They said that they would be
Okay, well that's it. That's it for Kemi there. And what do you think about her? And what's your verdict? I know lots of people have been listening and seeing a lot of comments and persons who are having a field day. Their mantra at this time is like content maker to ravish her, to ridicule her, and to say that she throw Nigeria under the bus, and they say she's the face of white supremacy. That's what people say. My view is that anyone in these positions, sometimes, unless you walk in that footprint or whatever like that, you don't know to a certain extent. And I'm not Nigerian, and I maybe don't feel exactly what lots of Nigerians are saying or feeling about this whole thing. But one thing I believe, though, at the same time, is that we've got to be very careful that we don't demonize or take down our people as they reach to levels of high levels of pinnacle of power in this country. Nobody's going to be perfect. You won't find someone who is perfect. You never find someone who says he's the right person or whatever like that. But one thing for sure I must say, and this is what I have to say though, is that Rishi Sunak and those other persons, they may be in quiet, but some will say that they didn't speak about their country or throw their country under the bus. Some will say that's what Kemi did. But for right now, she's the leader of the Conservative Party. For right now, she's the one that is going to be holding the Prime Minister to task. For right now, it is very important to close ranks and to support her in two ways. One, as a leader of the Conservative Party. Two, as a black woman. Yes, as a black woman, support her. And so therefore, you can say to your children, there is a black woman up there in that space. Now, privately, yes, you can have the goals and you can have a goal, but making videos, of course, people have the right, they can do whatever they want. But I believe I see some people just like they're making videos specifically on Kemi. It's like that's what drives them, that's their content. And they call her Auntie Kemi and all those sort of things, and they're ravisher and they're ridiculer. But honestly, the Kemi that I know for years, because I was campaigning with her as well in the past, and the Kemi that I know, she in a business one hoot. Yeah, there I am with her. At some time when she was much younger, there I married her. She came to my event before she was an MP at the Barack Obama Yes We Can event in 2008 in Brixton. Yep. Yeah. We got to support our own, no matter what. I won't be perfect. Trust me. If I reach into this position or something like that, at that level, I'm going to have people having a go at me. And likewise, any person that goes into any position. But you got to have a strong mettle. You got to be very focused and very resolved for the prize that you want. That's why my talk today, I said, when the rain was falling and I was contemplating whether I should go out or not, I said, who cares? I'm not even going to look at the app that says rain is falling or rain is about to fall or it's going to be 12 minutes of rain. Can you imagine? Years ago, we didn't have to wait on app to make any movements or to go anywhere. But now people are checking your app. Oh, 6 more minutes of rain. Oh, let me not go up there. 7 more minutes of rain. It's going to be pouring. Ladies and gentlemen, don't watch those things. Just go out there. Walk in the rain. Sing in the rain. Put your umbrella on. Don't get controlled. Not let anything stop you or block your progress. Right? Nothing. And that's my support that I said to Kemi. And I say she's paved the way. You know, big up to Kemi Badenoch as well. Milverton, you were saying something a while ago. Let me go back. The justice system in this country has gone silly. Simple mistake can get long jail sentences. Some motoring offenses have sentences that are long compared to the seriousness of the time. On the other hand, shoplifters are sometimes not even shoplifters in this country don't get arrested, bro. They go into the shop and they do whatever they want to do. But guess what? The other day, I think it was an African security said, put it back. And he said to the person, put it back. And the person was taking out everything. And my brethren, Charles Emeka, said, yes, you need a Nigerian or African security guard. Because these days now, when any shoplifting is happening, all you see the security guard and everybody's just watching, because they say if you hit them too hard or blah, 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 it's called an assault. And therefore you, the one in that business place, you will be impacted and that person will go scot-free. That's the way how the world is actually changing. Football player Joey Barton's brother was convicted of killing a black man in Liverpool around 15 years ago. A case similar to Stephen Lawrence's murder. The guy was at a bus stop with a white girlfriend, hit in the head with a pickaxe. Only 20 years he got. There you are. You know. So, you know, but anyway, I'm gonna go now, but just to let you know, in Jamaica, what is happening now, what is ramping up now is the budget debate. And I think Julian Robinson is talking maybe now. and the Minister of Finance, Miss Favour Williams, apparently she gave some massive giveaway. But sometimes you look at it and say, hang on a second, it is all politics. It is because election is coming up, so everything is ready. They believe election is going to be called soon, right after this whole thing. But I say to the opposition party, and I say to the present party, let the people know your plans. Let the manifestos go out. Don't wait until the last minute. Yep. Don't wait until the last minute, man. Don't wait until the last minute, Milverton, whereby they're going to put out a manifesto and you don't have time to absorb it and to understand what the government is saying. Yeah. One must able to think. So therefore, thank you, Milverton. Blessings. And so I put you on notice, ladies and gentlemen, on the 22nd of March, I'm going to be starting with some friends, teaching civics online, teaching civics on Facebook, on YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok, because many people have been saying civics have been taken out of the school. You know, civics is not talking about them. I'm in my show the other day and I said, oh, for Pete's sake, man, let us just teach civics online. You know, so I'll get in some materials and blah blah blah. I'm even gonna invite some honorary guests as well to come and speak on some aspect of it, like Simon Woolley, Lord Simon Woolley from Operation Black Vote. Maybe even get Lee Jasper at some point to come on and talk some aspects of civics, of ways how you can actually hold your government accountable, ways how you can be a part of the government structure, how you can play your part. Just the 5 years that they're in doesn't mean to say that's the end of it. There are lots of things you can do in the meantime. The responsibility and why you should vote. It's very important to vote, and not just thinking about the prime minister, because this is not a presidential system like you're going to vote for Donald Trump and Miss Harris. Even forget your name already. Miss Harris. No, you're voting for your members of parliament. That's what happened in UK, and that's what happened in Jamaica. You're voting for your member of parliament. That's the person you're voting for. Challenge them. Ask them what they're about. Talk to them. Ask them even this question. Are you one of the 8 persons who are being investigated for illicit enrichment? Say yes or no. Are you the one? Or are you being investigated for anything? Ask them some poignant questions. Challenge them on the doorstep. That is, if they go knock on the doors, or they think it's a foregone conclusion that they're going to win. Do they engage? Always recognize and remember that there should be a process called recall. That is when the whole adoption or the whole change of the government, the constitution reform takes place. So those are things we're going to talk about, ladies and gentlemen. So anyway, have a good night. Have a great night. May God bless you and God keep you. And thank you for joining. And remember to like and to subscribe, and remember to share and answer some of those questions I asked, especially about conscription. What's your take on conscription? Okay. Peace out. God bless you. Bye-bye. See you Saturday night. Cheers.